Hello and welcome to Ketulu Kustoms. My name is Seth and today we're working on Bruce again. If you're new to Bruce in the channel, let me catch you up to speed really quick. Bruce is a 1965 Mustang that my girlfriend got for her as her dream car that I took on the challenge of restoration. It's going to be a little harder than we thought. So I ended up having to strip the entire thing down and rebuilding from the start. We have stripped out the entire interior, ripped out the engine only to find out that was bad and we needed a new one, ripped the front end completely off, chopped out the rear and welded a little bit of stuff back on it as well as the floor pans in the middle. But now our attention has moved on to the front so we can get that fully restored and hopefully put back together. Our goal for the day is to get all of this area in the fender well on both sides completely disassembled, hopefully cleaned out and coated so that it is ready to have everything put back on. While we have everything off, as far as your control arms, your springs, and all that other good stuff, we're going to clean it and powder coat it if it is reusable. The only thing that I think is completely shot are the shocks, which I think are still from the 1960s. And while we are in here, I'm going to be taking apart the sway bar. This is just a support and our steering linkage here so that we can clean it and also hopefully reuse it. And all of it has really old bushings that need to be replaced, so we'll be getting those done as well. So with that said, we're gonna go ahead and get all this disassembled. I'm only gonna show you one side to save your brain of repetition, but let's get to it. So we definitely got new drum brakes on, which is nice, although I'm confused as to why it was so hard to get off. And then, if you look at our bearings, they look pretty good and pretty new. So they probably replaced those when they did the drum brakes, but I prefer disc brakes because drum brakes have a tendency to lock up. So while it's nice, we're switching to drum brakes anyway, or the disc brakes anyway, so we'll figure out what we can do about that. In the meantime, let's keep ripping this apart. Got the shock out. It is shot, like really bad. Also, I snapped one of the bolts on the way out, but definitely gonna need news anyway, because if I squish this, it just stays there. So, be trash. Bye-bye. Ah, right on the corner. Yes! Yay! Yes! Yep. So we've got mostly everything out now. I'm gonna take the sway bar off first, and then I'm really sketchy about this really old spring. It still has a lot of tension on it, and I can squish it a little with my hands, just not compress it enough to be able to keep this stayed so I can take out the upper control arm. So the plan is hopefully this doesn't explode to you guys and break my camera and then I can't film anything for a while. But I'm gonna take the bolts that are gonna take the bolts out that are holding the control arm, hoping that it's just gonna break tension free and just kaboom out this way, but not in a dangerous way to where it's gonna hurt anything. Fingers crossed. Get that done. Gotta get it in, gotta get it in. Get back to that. He ain't gonna fix himself. This one is scary. I'm scared. I'm scared. Well, nuts are off. You either go boom or stay still. Yeah! So that's everything out. A little bit of a headache, but not as bad as it could have been. Next up, I'm going to do everything that I just did over here on the other side, and then take out the steering linkage as well once I get to that point. Then after that, I'll see you guys after, and we'll clean all this area up and get it ready for everything we put back together. And after we get both sides looking like that, we're going to clean up and save as many parts as we can to save on the bill. I hope that the springs are still good with how old they are. Shocks for sure need to get replaced. Everything else may be good. You just need new boots for all the ball joints and bushings, but we'll see. And the sway bar is probably not as stiff as it used to be, but we'll drive them around and we'll see if we need to replace that. If so, it's not that big of a deal. See you guys in a little while. Now that we've got all of the suspension and steering linkage removed from the vehicle, we get to clean all this rust out. So I'm going to be hitting it with a wire wheel, then with a laser to clean it off one more time, clean it up and get it ready for paint. Once we get this primed and ready for the undercoating, we're going to move to the other side and do the exact same thing. In order to hit all possible surfaces, I removed the shock tower cover as well as the rear splash guard for the front fender area. We're now done with the wire wheel. Next up, we're going to hit it with the laser, and I've already vacuumed up all the dust, so we don't have to worry about anything like it. So let's go ahead and do it. Needless to say, I went home after that to get the paint out of my hair, and after we got all of that out, it was A, too dark, and B, too cold for us to do the undercoating on the interior. So instead, and to keep momentum going, I'm going to shift my focus towards the cowl so that we can get that fully cut in. And that's the last piece I need before I can put the front end back together. In order for me to properly remove the windshield wipers, in order to get the cowl out, I needed to also remove the gauge cluster and the steering column. The gauge cluster was so I could get to the bolt holding in the windshield wiper, and the steering column was so that I could clean up everything later and get everything as clean as possible with nothing in the way. With the windshield wipers taken out, it is now time to get it cutting, and I have already marked on both of our pieces here where we're going to cut to get ready for weld. Upon further inspection of the lower cowl, I've decided that I want to replace that as well. Initially, I thought it wasn't as bad, but looking at it here, being this is entirely torn out, and on the other side it's getting ready to do the same thing, I want to go ahead and replace it. At first, I thought that I was going to be able to do it from the inside and go ahead and cover the cowl up. But upon thinking about it and how I was going to have to do that process, it was going to be a whole lot easier to leave this open as much as I have it, so that I replace both sides and weld it in on both sides to make it as good as possible, have as little leaks as possible, because all this goes into the cabin and we don't want wet toes or carpet. So instead, we're going to switch back into the engine bay area and underneath on the frame. I'm going to clean the underside all the way up until about this section here, so that we are still able to fully clean out everything and get the chassis ready to put everything back on. And once it is, we will be adding in the suspension and steering components once again, minus the steering column, because we'll replace that once we do the interior. But we're going to be doing a whole lot of back and forth. Just got to work with what the car's given us. Before I could wire wheel the rest of the chassis, I needed to remove the last two engine mounts holding it together and getting in my way.
later.
The rest of the chassis is already stripped down all the way to the paint and lasered, so it is ready for prime. The next time you see me, this will already be primed and it'll be ready for undercoat. Welcome back. It is the next morning and we have everything primed under here and it is ready for undercoating, although it is too windy for me to paint or else my paint's just gonna go everywhere. But on the surface I need it to. So instead of worrying about that, we're gonna wait for the weather to get a little bit better for us so that we can get everything ready for reassembly. And in order to put everything back together, we have to do a whole lot of restoration of parts. So this is where a whole lot of things are going to get complicated. We got a whole lot of things going at the exact same time. Body panels, small parts, powder coating, painting, priming, all sorts of different stuff. So it's going to be a little jamboree of a bunch of different stuff. So let's cue the montage. And a big thanks to Gavin, who gave me a quick crash course on how to powder coat. We've got everything that we're going to powder over here in the oven. So while we wait the 30 minutes for this to bake and cure out, I'm going to laser the rest of the parts that we're going to be painting, but we're going to skip ahead to where I'm already done with that. So you just see me paint. After all of that painting and more painting and a little bit of undercoating, we've got all of those other parts done. And oh, and I forgot to mention the powder. So after all of that's done, we're finally ready to put all this stuff back on. And I have a little bit left I need to do to the chassis, but unfortunately, and the bodywork, but unfortunately it is too cold for me to be able to work on any of that and it to cure properly. So I still want to make progress, and we're just far enough to where we can start putting stuff back on. So I'm going to put in all of the suspension components back in and a little bit of the steering. I don't have the steering column done quite yet, so it's going to be a little loose for a while, nor do I have some of the sway bar bushings, etc. But we're going to put together as much as we can so we can get one step further. A lot planned for the day. Hopefully we can get it all done. So let me stop talking and let's get to it. Now this should be where you see me put the spring followed in by the shock, but we had a small problem doing that, so I am now stuck dead in the water. No problem though, just another tool we got to have ordered. But I'll go ahead and show you what we got going on. If we were to normally have this compressed and to put it in here, these holders that would hold the rod to squish the spring would make contact with the edge here, and I wouldn't actually be able to put the spring in and then decompress it because all this other stuff would be in the way. So I have to get a new compressor that goes through the center and squeezes that way, and then that goes through the top in the shock tower in order to compress this, and then we can get this completely put back together. But progress is progress. Let's do a quick recap of everything that we've done so far. We have completely stripped the front end. We have removed all of the suspension components, stripped it down, primed and undercoated it so that it is ready to bear the elements. And with that, we have also taken off the suspension components, restored what could be used, purchased what could not, and put most of it back on. We've got the windshield and the back window removed, as well as the cowl cut out and ready to get replaced once we have new parts coming in. We've made a whole lot of progress in this section, but we still have a whole lot more to go. The things that we have coming up next, we're going to remove the entire rear suspension disassembly as well as the differential. We are going to finish cleaning up the chassis and hopefully painting it completely, restoring the rear components as well as rebuilding the rear differential, and finishing the rear bodywork, which includes the trunk, the rear tail light cover, and finally fixing the dreaded rear quarter that I messed up. If you need to look back over to episode 3, I think it was, and get caught up on how I messed up, maybe. But as you can see, Bruce is all tidied up and snug, getting ready to bear some winter weeks without me being able to work on him because it's just a little too cold with where we're at right now. But until then, see you next time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to carry on with the Bruce series. There's plenty more Bruce content to come, and I've got a new car coming, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, keep driving.